So, I just wanted to do a quick introduction, although many of these people, if not all of them, don't need an introduction. But, what I wanted to say is vulnerability, I think, is one of the most important skills or tools a leader or any individual can have. And so when Nancy said that this is the session she wanted to put together, I was, yes, 100%, 1,000% yes. Let's talk about vulnerability, because vulnerability shows that when you're vulnerable, you're showing other people that, yes, it's okay not to know everything. It's okay to have questions. It's okay to have an issue, and you're not alone. So sorry, I don't want to go deep into this. Bottom line is, I want to introduce the panel, and I'm just going to go with Nancy, the dancing accountant. Brolin, Hector Garcia, and Nayo come on up. I am not on this. They just gave me an official cape and mask for being the announcer. I'm handing it up to them. Superheroes, go ahead.
Ooh, fun. Randy's an honorary superhero today. I had to get him a cape too. Looks good on him. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for being here. If you haven't already, please add your words to our cloud. Let it all out. Today, as Randy mentioned, we're going to be talking about vulnerability as a strength. We're going to explore the mental health benefits that come from sharing stories with colleagues, to normalize vulnerability and to recognize that we're not alone. And I know we're not alone because I'm looking at this room of people that I love so much and not feeling alone right this minute. So please share in one word how it feels when you're sure you're the only one who doesn't have it together. We've got stressful, inadequate, embarrassed, lonely, overwhelmed, isolated. This is like a loser. This depressing. This is not good stuff. I'm not going to answer this in one word. I'm going to use two, which is like not awesome, right? Like basically that's the idea here. It's not a good thing. I know I'm cheating by using two words there. By the way, CPE credit. Anybody want to make that happen? Let's see. Yeah. All right. CPE credit. While we're wallowing in isolation, depression, embarrassment, and all that stuff, nothing better to do in that moment than make sure you get CPE credit. So, it looks like we're done with that. Okay, great. So it'll show up again at the end. How many of y'all heard Nicole Davis at Scaling New Heights with her keynote this year? Yeah, amazing, right? This was one of her quotes. Vulnerability is a strength that the greatest leaders wear with pride. Do you believe that this is true? Show of hands. Yeah? Do you think it's common? No, it's not. It should be, but it's not. And that is why I am so deeply grateful for our guests today. I believe they're among the greatest leaders in the profession, partially because they are willing to share their weaknesses. I am so thrilled that they are here. And these are your superheroes. Let's give a round of applause. Not just because they're about to bare their souls to us, but because they're wearing capes and masks. Come on, this is so great. I'm so proud of them. All right, so let's go in the order of the slide. Nayo, you're first. Tell us your name, a little bit about you, and who is your favorite fictional superhero?
Hello, everyone. I am Nayo, owner-founder, First of Accounting, where we make accounting a little less taxing for small business owners all across the U.S. That's trademark, don't use it. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. My favorite superhero is probably Wonder Woman. Her last name is Carter. My last name is Carter. I have some of those magical powers that she does. You know?
It's a good one. I love it. All right, so next is Hector.
Hi everybody, I'm Hector Garcia. I'm a CPA. I have a small practice down in Miami. We do mostly bookkeeping and QuickBooks training. My favorite superhero is Batman.
Fantastic. And Dawn.
Well, you stole that from me. Thanks, Hector. So my name is Dawn Brolin. I'm a CPA, a certified fraud examiner, and the CEO of Powerful Accounting Inc. But most importantly, I do the best I can to be a designated motivator for all of you.
I know you're gonna pick a different superhero since he
It
stole
was
it.
Batman.
It was
I like to
Batman.
hide behind a mask, but everyone thinks that I don't like to hide behind a mask, but I do.
I love it. You can keep this.
We're both
That's
on
good.
that.
That's fantastic. All right.
Batman got all the
I'll
money.
share- I'll
Maybe
share.
I chose the wrong
I'll share.
superhero.
So actually, this is just going to be a debate about superheroes. We're going to toss the whole vulnerability thing out because this. All right. So why are we here? I mean, I know why we're here. It's because you guys want to hear them dish the dirt, which we will get to in a second. But like, why do we all want to come here and listen to the super sad stories of our superheroes, right? Like, to what end? Like, why is this exercise remotely useful? It's because it highlights what in mental health are known as adaptive coping strategies. I shared a deeply invasive survey with these three, and ChatGPT helped me tease out the themes in their responses that lined up with these various adaptive coping strategies in behavioral therapy. They're all helpful in both cognitive and dialectical behavioral therapy, if you're familiar with either. So keep these in mind as our panelists are sharing their stories. We've got reconciling perception versus reality, building resilience, finding balance between maintaining control and letting go, finding meaning in the past, managing anxiety and stress. These are all methods of coping with emotional challenges and stress that we're going to hear about today. So we're going to start with the gap between perception and reality. So this is how social media and professional environments create unrealistic standards that leave us thinking that you superheroes got it all figured out. We know that that can't possibly be true. Let's be honest. We all want to hear your darkest, most tragic horror stories. So Dawn, would you like to start us off?
I always do. I have 4 minutes according to the script. So, yeah, so everyone thinks that I got it all together and I'm always happy and stuff like that. That's just not true. But I have 3 examples of experiences that I've had over my career. 25 years this month, yay, 25 years. It took me 23 to get good at it, so hopefully something faster than that because it's wicked painful to do it that way. But it wasn't a pretty significant partnership that I had formed back in 2005 with the CPA that I was bringing my bookkeeping to do the tax return, and then another girl that was in master's degree with me. And I said, you guys, let's form a company, and they were like, yeah, let's do it. I brought all my clients, I had like 150 clients, one of them brought none. The other one stole past clients from her old firm, and we formed a company, really ethical company, as you can see. So anyway, through that process, as it came to an end, I was there for 6 years, 3 months, and 1 day. It was April 1st, it wasn't funny, that I left that firm because they knew that I was the breadwinner for my family. I've always been the breadwinner for my family because that's how I'm a charge-forward girl. And so I was with that partnership, and they knew what I needed to make. They knew all my finances. They knew everything about me. And over the course of 4 weeks, we started at making $2 grand a week, and then they squeezed it down to $1,500, then to $1,000, then finally this Friday, April 1st, 2011, it went down to $750 a week. That wouldn't even make my mortgage. I couldn't even make my mortgage. And they knew that. So they literally squeezed me out of this business. We bought a building together. They did the paperwork in a way that I was not even an owner. So I walked away from that partnership with nothing. Probably left $500,000 behind easily. And I left that place and I was like, I called my husband, I'm like, I can't do this, I can't stay here. People tell me I was fat. They told me that I wore, like, I'm gonna cry this whole time, just so you know. But it was really, really brutal to leave that place. What happened? Oh, I thought you were whispering, so secret. But anyway, like, you learn through that kind of a process, and I learned for sure from that experience the leader I wasn't gonna be. I wasn't gonna be people like that who treated their employees and their partners the way that these people treated me. And so it really helped me really be, at this point, I've always been ethical, but I always wanted to have integrity and loyalty and always treat people right. And so that was really tough for me. And then I had another experience real quick, I don't know how many seconds I have left. Where I had an employee who basically hired her for this one client. It was a really big client, happened to be a law firm. And she was in charge of everything for this law firm. And I didn't supervise her because I don't want to be a babysitter, so I figured, she was an EA, she knew what she was doing. And that firm got audited by the ethics committee, because they get random audits. And I went to her and I'm like, all right, we need all the reports, we need all the reconciliations. And she's like, I don't have them all done. I'm like, well, what do you need this for tomorrow, so I hope you're gonna just stay a couple extra hours. She's like, no, I don't have any of it done. And so she was building her house, and she was planning her daughter's wedding. And that's what she was doing while she was working for me. And I fired her immediately, and I brought in the other 9 people on my team, and we spent 6 months fixing it. It cost me $250,000. I only owe $40,000. I paid it all down because I was not gonna leave those people hanging. So that happened. And then lastly, last year I got sued by a client. That was really fun. I got sued by a client. I did a fraud examination here in Chicago. I should go find him. Anybody want a bowl? I got a cake. I can do anything. Right? So we're gonna have to use this cake tonight and I'll fly there. Anyway, so he sued me, and I happen to have joined another partnership. God, don't join partnerships. Like, I get it. I'm not doing that ever again. So anyway, he sued me, but the company that I became a partner with while I was doing this work didn't have the right E&O insurance for the fraud work. So I was not covered under that E&O back in 2019, I think it was. I had to pay $37,000 out of my pocket for the attorneys that I hired, and I had to settle with him and pay him $12,000. So those are, things are awesome, right? I'm awesome.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, really.
On that happy note, Hector, how about you?
Okay. First of all, let me start by saying, Dawn, that first time I met you, maybe 2013 or 2014 at Scaling New Heights, or Leader Con. You were teaching a class, and when people raise their hand to want to give feedback or ask questions, you threw a baseball at them.
Yes.
And I was like, you can do that?
You can, all the tchotchkes you get in the exhibit hall, you throw it.
Yeah, it was a really soft, but that was my first lesson on, there's no like set way that you can do things or you can't do things. She was clearly, early on, first time I met her, experimenting, doing different things. Baseball, softball, baseball has another deep background. It's personal to you as well. But that was the first time I saw someone that go, wow, that person had the guts to throw a baseball around. And I've been teaching for maybe like 4 years, and as a very young teacher, or a very young trainer, I felt intimidated that many of the people that were in the room that I was teaching were way older than me. I started teaching QuickBooks when I was like maybe 30, and a lot of people were in their 40s, 50s. It's pretty intimidating. So like watching you like throw a ball around gave me a lot of encouragement that there is no set way that things need to be. But with that being said, one of the things I've always struggled with, or not anymore, I already crossed my 40s and I feel old at this point, but when I first started practicing, which was in my late 20s, I was a Latino accountant in a world where most accountants don't look like me. Then they not only not look like me race-wise or skin color-wise or the way they speak, they're also not the same demographic. They're usually older CPA men that kind of control the world. So I was always intimidated that I was trying to get into education. I was trying to teach people stuff that I knew more than them. Being young also helped because you're computer techie and savvy and all that stuff. So that was one thing that I've always struggled with, is that sort of imposter syndrome that, do I belong here? Do I have the right to teach this person something even though this person has a lot more years on me? And I always try to over deliver. So a 1 hour talk, I always try to talk for an hour and a half because I'm thinking that if you do an hour and a half, that compensates for being so young. Or when I go into a webinar, it's supposed to be an hour, it goes up to 3 hours. Or instead of making 2 videos a week like a normal person.
I think everybody here is doing those webinars, right? Yeah.
So like I've always had this sort of chip on my shoulder where I feel that I have to overcompensate for this thing that I don't have. But no one ever told me, you're too young to do this. This is like the own story that I built in my mind. And over the years, my struggle, I'm blessed to tell you that I have 2 partners and they're wonderful and you know them.
Yes, they're all taken.
Yeah, they're all good. Yeah. Partnerships haven't been an issue with me. I've been married to my wife for 17 years. Our other partnership is also a great one. So I wouldn't just put a blanket over don't do partnerships, okay? But one lesson that an attorney friend of mine told me when I went into a partnership, because if you're going to start with a partnership, write the prenup, right, and write the divorce sequence. Because if you start by discussing what does it look like when it dissolves, you can backtrack your partnership agreement. So if you start a discussion about, hey, in 5 years, 10 years, 12 years, if this thing goes haywire, what is the process for us to count our sheep, count our assets, split here, split there, who owns what? So that helped us a lot with our partnership, is we had this discussion about what it looks like when it ends, because 50% of marriages end, and I'm pretty sure 50% of business partnerships or more.
Probably way more.
Well,
Yeah.
So that helped me quite a bit. So that, you know.
I have a question for you about that you were talking about your imposter syndrome. One of the things that we talked about is the struggles that you've had with anxiety and not being able to rest your brain and feeling like you're on a hamster wheel all the time. Would you mind sharing with folks about what happened when you went to the hospital?
Sure. So I've, with this whole concept of trying to overcompensate, and trying to make way too many videos, I didn't sleep, make videos until 3 o'clock in the morning. Now recently, like last couple of years, developing an app until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. But I've had a sharp decline in my personal health in the past 10 years or so. I developed high blood pressure at 33 years old. I mean, it just lack of sleep, thinking about work all the time, thinking about what the next video is going to be, thinking about what the next conference is going to be, thinking about what the next step is. You know, I've always felt that I had to, like a chess match, think about like 17 steps ahead, because you know I was too young and not the right demographic or whatever to belong in this industry, and I overworked myself, and I developed all sorts of things. I put on a lot of weight. I'm doing better at it now, but I put a lot of weight. I developed tinnitus, which is ringing in your ears. It's funny, people tell me, your ears must be ringing. They were talking about you. You know what? My ears are always ringing, so it's a different issue. So I got high blood pressure, developed tinnitus. 2 years ago, I had vocal cord surgery. I couldn't talk. It was a litany of health issues that just came in like 5 years. And my doctor literally told me, "You got 4 kids. You are 42 years old. If I switch your age to a 72-year-old person's chart, it would look right. Like you literally have a chart. Like your health decline is looking like you're in your later part of the years, not in your 40s." And he's like, "If you want to die young, keep going. If you want to be there to see your kids graduate or whatever, you got to make significant changes in your life." And the last couple of years for me have been sort of discovery adventure to figure out how do I balance everything that I want to do, running the practice, developing an app, running a conference now, creating YouTube videos, and also sleeping, and also being with my kids, and so I've had to make some significantly difficult and very challenging changes in my personal life in order to be able to maybe, hopefully, in 20, 30 years, enjoy everything that I've been building. Otherwise, it would be for nothing.
So we've got, Dawn's had all of these really horrible things happen in her work life. We've got Hector, who's had health problems, anxiety, trouble with work-life balance, work-life balance.
Right.
Nayo, as if our souls could be crushed any further, would you like to share your story?
So I'll go still business, still partners. So back in 2009, I decided to buy a hosiery shop. Now, how many of you in here wear pantyhose or have ever worn pantyhose? Ever. Right. Oh, really? Okay. Got it. So there was a local hosiery shop called Hosiery World in Baltimore. This was like the shop to get your sparkly pantyhose for prom. You could get your name on them. So this was a really nostalgic purchase for me. I walked into the store to buy my little pantyhose, and he's like, "We're closing." And I'm like, "You can't close." So I decided that I was going to take on this business. I had a partner. We know how that ended. But it didn't, I wish I would have known you back then, because then I would have went into the partnership. partnership at the end of the month. But just imagine having a business and you gotta shell out $15,000 initially for the purchase. I was still renting the building from the guy who I bought the shop from. The inventory was old and I had no clue. It was a truly nostalgic purchase. I had a full-time job at the time, so my partner was supposedly working. Come to find out, he was stealing money off the register. He had hired another girl who was also stealing money off the register, and this business is 2 months old. And he was supposed to pay money to buy into the partnership and never did. So I eventually locked him out. So I changed all the locks. His name, luckily for me, his name wasn't on the lease, so I was able to get out of that fake partnership quick. He's like, "We got a partnership agreement." I said, "No, you have a piece of paper that's not signed by me." So I was smart enough to do that. But in the midst of doing this, I had a brand new credit card. I took all the money out to pay for the business, and then I lost my job because it was the recession. So imagine having this business that doesn't have any foot traffic because lifestyle has changed, losing your full-time job, and having debt. And I'm an accountant, so I'm doing tax returns, and I'm like running ragged. So I eventually had to file bankruptcy, which is for me, was like a blow, because it's like, how dare I not have my finances in order? Or I have to go and tell people how much I owe for all of these things and have them wipe the slate clean. How dare I? And it took me 2 years before I really came to grips with, that's a tool, use the tool, dummy. And so I was thankful that it was there. But personally, I know you all love my outfits and I dress really beautifully and you love my glasses. But one of the things that you all may or may not know about me is that I'm partially blind in my right eye. So going back to health, I was born this way. If anything happens to my left eye, I'm considered legally blind. So imagine you have to wear glasses all your life. And be poor where you gotta wear the more cheap glasses. I mean, the ugly ones that don't fit your face. So I knew when I grew up I was gonna buy glasses that I liked. But to this day, if you stare at me real hard, you can see my eye wander. And it's not a pretty sight. So I blink often, look cute, and hope you all don't know.
Well, that's our panel for today. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you all for sharing these deeply personal stories. So in addition to these super spectacularly tragic stuff that we've just heard, we also have the day-to-day issues of running a firm. And contrary to popular belief, maybe y'all aren't amazing at everything about running your firm, so we want to hear a little bit about that. We want to know, what do you hate doing and what do you put off? Nayo, I know you got some goodies here, so we're going to stick with you.
So proposals is like my least favorite thing to do. Man, it takes me too long to send out a proposal. So let me just tell you, me and Tal from Anchor have become really good friends because I'm like, I have got to find a solution for this. But I lost a few clients because we increased their fees this year, but we hadn't increased their fees in 6 years. So you know what that fee looked like, right? It was massively, like, why are we gonna pay you this much? So we're not gonna pay you this much. Okay, fine. But that's embarrassing. Especially when I teach about practice management. Sitting on the boat. Like, how dare you? But that's one piece of my business that's just not buckled down. It will be by the end of the year though. Because I identified it, I'm addressing it head on, and I will not walk into the new year with this problem. Also, if you sat in any of my classes, you know my slideshows are nice and beautiful and pretty. I will put them off to the last minute, and then it takes me days and days and days. Why? Because I think about you all as I'm putting them together. When you're sitting in a room like this, and it's like the screen is bright, it's like I can't read the text. And I pour hours into these slideshows, and it's cool.
Thank you, by the way, for that, because you make amazing slides. But I'm sorry to hear that they take so
long. Oh my gosh, it takes forever. And I tried to outsource it, it just wasn't working. I was just like, I hate to tell this person this is what you gave me, it's ugly, but no, this is not up to par.
Dawn, What about you? Is there a part of running your business you're embarrassed to admit you just can't stand? Is there stuff you put off?
No. Yeah, all the time. I had a firm up to 11 people at one point, and I hated it. I am just not a person, I know some of you know me well enough that just don't have a lot of patience with people that I gotta babysit. Like, I just want to grab them by the throat. It's like, dude, you're an adult. Some of you are responsible for other human beings. That's like, so how can you not do your job?
Oh my God.
Here's your job. You're gonna reconcile some bank accounts, man. Like, it's gotta come to zero. What else do you need to know, right? And so I say I wasn't a good leader. I wasn't that I was a bad leader, because I think a lot about that. I wasn't a good manager, right? So a leader and a manager are different things. And so I wasn't really great at the managing part. And so, that started to thin out. There were reasons why that thinned out. When I started coaching in 2019, I had 3 people leave because I wasn't in the office all the time. And, how dare you, run this firm, but you're not here all the time. And 3 people left, and thank God they left. Good, bye. I didn't feel that way at the time. But I do now. And so I realized that I need to pare it down. And now there's 3 of us, and it's like heaven on earth. And I don't babysit either one of them, and my life is better. And that's why I'm not going to grow. I'm not going to fix what isn't broken. You know what I mean? But I was not really good at managing them. And the other thing about procrastinating, putting things off, I've learned that the things that I love to do, I don't put them off. The things I don't like to do, I'm waiting till the last minute, like slideshows, right? So I don't like doing that. But I found that I needed to start accepting help. And I'll talk about that towards the end. But I realized that I had to not outsource, but maybe lean on some other people, which I'm not good at. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, I'm not a good manager, and I blew it with 11 people. So those of you who grow big firms, amen to you. Because it's a hard thing to do. And it's stressful, and it's anxiety, and we don't sleep, and all that stuff. But for those of you that are growing and want to grow, don't
Don't listen to Dawn.
Don't listen to me. But it's just commitment, and it's hard.
And it's a different skill set.
Yes.
It's a different skill set. You can be really amazing at certain things and not at other things. Hector, I was super surprised to learn your thoughts on this. You were saying to me that you can't stand the fact that you are so disorganized. And I was like, well, Hector can't be disorganized. Look how productive he is. Tell us about what a mess you are, because I want to hear about that.
Okay. So my wife always says that to make a meal this big, I make a mess this big.
Oh, that sounds like every man I know. Sorry.
But it's that times 10. Okay. I remember one time that I used to experiment with. I've always been a wannabe chef. I have a deep relationship with food. Okay, I've always had it. And one day I had pho, the Vietnamese soup, for the first time. I said, I'm gonna make this.
Oh.
That's not easy to make.
No.
So it also when I went to check the recipe, I skipped over one recipe and then skipped over 15 other recipes and then tossed the recipes and said, I'll do a compendium of what I liked about the most about each recipe, do my own thing. And my wife told me this is the most mess you've ever done for a damn soup, And on top of that, she doesn't like pho, so I was the only one that enjoyed it. I don't even know if it was good or not. To me, it was incredible. But anyway, my office also looks like that. There's just books everywhere and notes everywhere, and somehow I figure it out. Like my wife would come to me and says, "Hey, where's that IRS notice from whatever client?" And I'm like, "Hold on." I'll just chuck my hand in a pile of paper and go, boom, there it is. And she's like,
Is that about the ocean behind the curtain?
So, but this level of disorganization, and I married a person that's extremely organized, and probably strategically, maybe just serendipity, but the level of disorganization that I have also enables me to really think outside the box. So in many ways, I think that being disorganized is kind of a blessing. I like to see it that way. I don't like the
I'm sure you like to see it that way.
I don't
I'm
like
not sure if
the
your wife likes to see it that way.
I don't like the prospect of changing into an organized person. I got visualizing what it would take to become an organized person, and I don't like that journey. So I've been trying to... I'm trying to reframe this into a superpower.
You do that. Is this why? Because I was really surprised. It was at Bridging the Gap last year in the bar. You mentioned that you guys had only just recently started doing engagement letters. You didn't have those.
Right.
Yeah. Is that why?
I also attract very unorganized clients, by the way. Manifest itself in an interesting way. So like when I speak to a client or a new prospect, I've always felt that and this is not the vulnerability part, this is more like the Hector teaching a skill set part. But I feel that trust is probably the most important thing you can build with anyone. And I've always made a really big deal about building deep trust with the person I'm going to conduct business with. So because I had that deep trust, I'm like, who needs an engagement letter, right? Because that conversation and that email with a summary of points that we talked about that includes everything we will do and everything we won't do will be ironclad, and it was never like that. But on a good note, everything that's ever gone wrong with every client because of the lack of engagement letter has been a really positive learning experience. Yeah.
He reframed it.
And reframed, right. And like Nayo said, you know, like, how dare I teach something that I don't know or that I don't do? When I go out there and teach something, half of what I teach is stuff that I've done, and the other half is stuff that I really wish I would do, and I'm really trying to do it that well. And I try not to hide it, and I'll say to people, I've done this, and this is something I'm working on. Sometimes I'm truly working on it, sometimes I'm just manifesting. I think half of success is manifesting in many ways.
So here's another cheerful topic. Self-doubt and imposter syndrome. I'm guessing no one in the room has ever had to deal with these. Anyone? No? Okay, good. Let's see. Hector, we're gonna stick with you because you were talking about imposter syndrome before. Have you ever felt like everybody has it together except for you? I know you were talking about how sometimes you see other people being like Zen-like, and this is not a thing that you have. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I see people like stay at like one speed, you know, like not get super excited or super bummed out, I often go, how can you do that? You know, like I feel like so much of my energy goes to like being overexcited about something or overstressed about something. It's like all the time, it's just up and down, up and down, up and down. And even like at conferences, that I promise that I'm more chill now. But at conference, I used to get super excited about everything. You know, like I met this guy, I'm super excited, let's go have drinks, let's go eat, oh, there's a party, let's go to the party, let's do this, let's do that. And all that overexcitement really, you know, has driven into almost like a crash. And I've been looking at like people that I admire, especially speakers, that can deliver really good content without having to like put so much like body effort into it. I know that's your signature, like you have to put the body effort into it. And I want to do that too, and I think sometimes you need to punch. But I see people like Ron Baker speak, and I'm like, how is he so like chill and nonchalant the whole time? And people ask him questions that are like really questions that are, because I know the guy, and the questions are so like basic based on what he's talking, and he can calmly just like meet people where they are and then bring them up with them. And I think that there's something to be said about being seen as a person that will bring down your energy when there's too much energy, or bring up your energy when there's too little. And one thing that I'm working on, I'm trying to like work on those peaks and try to, not just me being more calm, I want to be the person that people look for that comfort to help them get to a place of Zen. So I want to become more.
Maybe you've got different talents. Maybe you've got different abilities. Maybe we're all inspired by you in different ways. I'm just going to ask you to think about that for a minute. And I'm going to ask Nayo to tell us about a particular challenge that's making you anxious right now and why.
Delegating. I'm type A. I hired 4 people this year. The goal to remove me from the client work. It's been my little baby. It's been my little baby since 2010. And saying, here, you do this for me has been super stressful. So it is, like even when I'm away, I'm telling the team, I'm gonna be away, I'm not checking messages. I'm checking email, I'm messaging them, this did not get done. Even today, I was still like, hey, I need this done, and I've been watching them do it. It's like, can you just delegate, let it go? But that's hard, it's really hard, especially when I feel like the level of service needs to be high, 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 but that's because I feel like my name's on the line. Being a Black woman and providing services, it comes with a level of expectation that is unspoken. I have to show up and show up appropriately. Don't put a bad review online about me. Don't tell somebody I didn't do what I was supposed to do, because I will tell you I did, and here's where you messed up, because I will have all the receipts. So delegating is really where I'm putting on.
Do you ever just wish you could just fire everybody and take all the work back?
You know, I say that some days, like, this would be so much easier if I just took all the work back. But the whole goal really is for me to have my Saturdays back. Like, I love working on Saturdays, but I want to work on Saturdays not because I have to, but because I can. And so, you know, the other piece is I like my husband, so I kind of want to spend some time with him.
Yeah.
So,
You heard it here first. Taking your firm virtual, Nayo Carter Gray struggles with delegation. I mean, I was shocked to hear that, and also relieved.
that whole summit I put on by myself, my admin helps with about this much out of all of them.
Amazing.
People-
Absolutely amazing.
I'm
And
just happy.
Hector had also told me that he actually had self-doubt when you were talking about shifting from being practitioner to an educator. So I'm like, okay, we got superhero Nayo over here struggling with delegation. We've got superhero Hector over here, who we have all learned from as an educator for how many years, has self-doubt about switching to being a full-time educator. And that means we're not alone, right? The struggle is real. It is real for these amazing people over here who we never would have guessed. And,
Can I say something about delegation for a second?
okay,
I struggle with that too. Like I still literally edit my own videos. The one
I
thing
knew you were gonna say that.
that,
I can't let it go either.
that is the one thing that people ask me, who edits your videos? And when I say me, people look at me like, with you? Almost like it's such a waste of talent. Like you should be, instead of spending an hour editing your video, you should spend an hour creating a second video. But the biggest challenge, and I think we all have the same problem, is the time that it takes to explain someone your vision or what you want and how you want it done almost feels like it takes longer than if you would have done it. And I intellectually I reconcile that and I say it out loud, but somehow something inside of me doesn't actually apply.
You know what it is? We haven't found our creative partner yet. So you talked about how partnerships work. I feel like there's a creative partner out there that you need, that I need. We're looking for that this year, yeah. But that's a goal. A goal. I look at somebody like Jason Stabs. He's got an editor. This editor's great. Terrell Turner's video editor. I'm like, damn, I'm gonna snatch whoever that is up, because they're doing a fabulous job. And I just think you and I just need to take some time to find our creative match.
True. But honestly, one more thing about editing in general.
Of
Sorry.
no, I'm ready.
I got time for this.
Time will come. We'll come back to.
Another life lesson about editing, okay? Not video editing, just editing in general, okay? Editing.
I
That's
told
the
you I
over
was gonna bring
conversation.
Hang on, hang
I'm
on.
coming out to play.
This is
She
important
gave
like
us
the taser.
Editing. Editing.
Look, you still gotta get it up.
Listen, editing. Editing is part of everything that we do, okay? Like when we're about to say something, deciding what you're gonna say and what you're not gonna say is also an edit. And the edit comes deep, is a deep part of the creative process of communicating. So sometimes you kind of have to be your own editor, and that's the story I tell myself.
That is a fabulous one. That is a really good coping mechanism. Somebody write that down, because that's fantastic. I saved you for last here, Dawn. for these questions about feeling like you're the only one who doesn't have it together, challenges that are making you anxious because of self-doubt or personal shortcomings, struggling with imposter syndrome. The reason I saved you for last is that, man, when I read your responses to these questions, I just wanted to get on a plane and go hug you. I was like, my husband is here and he can tell you, like, I was legit crying in the kitchen at the counter. So, I would like for you
So
to
be ready for it, folks.
Yeah. Please share with us, the whole audience, what you shared in our survey.
Oh God, how am I gonna get through this one?
That's
That's why I'm sitting in the chair by myself because I don't think I belong in the chair with them.
You totally belong right next to me.
Pardon me?
You belong right here.
I know. No, I'm good. I like to be by myself. Anyway, no, for sure. Like it's interesting too because I always tell people I'm like, you either love me or you don't like me at all. And I've learned to accept that, and it's okay. I'm okay with that. But sometimes people will say to me, as a matter of fact, Sailing the Heights, someone said to me, I was telling her about how I did the subscription pricing and how it's changed my whole life, and it's just so amazing and everything like that. Jody Padar is one of the people leading the charge on that. Thank God, Jody. With Ron Baker, yes, absolutely. Changed their lives. So she said to me, I was trying to explain it to her, and she goes, yeah, but you're Dawn Brolin. And I was like, what? She goes, yeah, of course your clients are going to buy into your pricing structure. You're Dawn Brolin. And I was like, boy, do people not understand me at all. I was like, the amount of failures I've had, the amount of shit I've gone through trying to build a practice. I'm not really a good tax person, so Dominique, if you just want to take over the tax stuff for me, that'd be great. Just looking at the people in here, you're geniuses. You're so intelligent. I listen to you in the hallway. I listen to, the things that you do, the webinars you give, the education all these people are giving that I look up to. And I'm like, I'm not even close to as good as those people are. And that's truly how I feel. But I feel like I want to try to build up the world. And I want to make people's lives better, so I put all of my own feelings aside. And I look in the mirror every day, even tomorrow morning, before tomorrow morning, I'll look in the mirror and I'm going to go, this isn't about you, this is about them. So you put your feelings aside, the way you don't feel like you don't belong on the stage, you don't belong, doing all this stuff, because you screw a lot of stuff up, buddy. Again, I'm talking to myself, of course. And I'm like, you don't belong, but it's at the same time, I'm like, but I feel like I have to do it. And when I encourage people and I share, it's literally from the depths of my soul. Because I want to make the world better. And there are some non-empathetic people in this world. Anybody ever seen somebody who's not empathetic? Mm-hmm. If everybody doesn't raise their hand, I hate you, because that means your world's perfect, right? Your world is perfect. But there's people with no empathy. And we have to change that. And that's what I want to do. So I have to take my imperfections and put them aside to say, I'm going to just do everything I can to help everybody feel better about themselves, to make their lives better in their practices. And I have made my life better in my practice. We have streamlined things, we have done things. But if you think that I think I'm somebody, you don't know me at all. Because that's not how I feel. And I work through that. Like, I'm in therapy, guys, right? Back in the day, we just go kick people's ass. That's how we handle stress. And now we gotta watch the feelings. I get it. I get that. Right? So that's where I'm at.
We love you so much, Dawn. After hearing these really tough stories, I asked these three, look, how do we strike a balance between, one, making sure y'all know you're not the only one struggling, and two, making you feel like, well, if these superheroes are still struggling, the rest of us will never make it out of the pit of despair. Like, we got no hope whatsoever. It's always gonna be like this. So, I don't want to be all rah-rah, it always turns out fine, don't worry, be happy, but we also want to offer hope. And they totally ended up giving me hope when they answered that question. all three of you have pretty actionable strategies for making things happen despite any anxiety that creeps in. What is your strategy for working through the overwhelm and the things that make you anxious? Nayo, let's start with you.
So I'm gonna say Pomodoros in my planner. One thing I didn't mention was that I had a hysterectomy in December. So my brain fog right now is absolutely massive. So if you tell me something, I'm not gonna remember it. Like I just am completely honest about that now. I'm taking way longer to do things. And so really kind of focusing my brain to work on one thing at a time, writing things down in my planner has kind of helped me focus through the fog. Because I used to have it all together. I knew all the things. You can ask me about something from 3 years ago, and I can tell you what you had on, what you ate for lunch, and recall an entire conversation. I can't do that anymore. Yeah. It's very frustrating. So.
And Dawn, you were saying you actually had a really similar approach.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So overwhelmed and like the whole thing about avoiding things you're not good at. So I have a unique. Okay, we do have a partnership. Okay, so I guess I forgot about that part. But it's a partnership with 2 other CPAs, and we split the cost of software and EO insurance and stuff like that. And we keep our own money, which is great. And one of my tax partners, his name is Keith. He's such a phenomenal guy. He's been doing tax for a lot longer than me, and he just knows what he's doing, and he's awesome. So I've learned I'm not a good rely on other people person, anybody. Like I can do everything myself, hence, wearing all this stuff. I'm not a good lean on other people, but I realized like about a year and a half ago when I moved to subscription pricing that I needed to have him come in and review all of my business tax returns and make sure I'm not messing anything up. So I've learned that it's okay in those areas that I'm not strong at to lean on him to do that. You and I had a unique conversation about letting other people help you and stuff like that. So I've realized I need to maybe do that at some point. I'm not doing it yet.
Not yet.
But at least with Keith,
she's getting there. She's getting there.
Getting there.
And you were also talking about how you cut the day into little pieces.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I'm really good at setting boundaries. I've become really good at boundaries. And so when I come in the office, like the first thing I do is look at what needs to be done for the day. So I sit there and I go, okay, these 3 tax returns, like I need to get these out today. Those are my must-dos today. And then I'm like, okay, anything after that is gravy. Like I'm killing it after that if I do those 3. So I break it down and say, okay, now I think I could get this done by 1, so I could actually come to the office at 10 and leave by 1. So that gives me optimism. I'm like, okay, great, I could leave at 1. And then if I'm like, oh, I'm kind of on a roll here, I can get even more things done, but I don't put so much pressure on myself to do everything in that day, and I'm never gonna sit in that office for 12 hours, FYI, that's not happening. So that.
The new Dawn focusing on self-care.
Yeah.
I love that.
100%.
Hector, your response to this one was really reassuring to me. You talked about how your strength is in showing up. 99%, you said 99% of your success is that you always will try it. Tell us about how many videos you have that you have. This is a great statistic, I don't remember the exact numbers.
Yeah, so I actually have roughly 1,000 videos published in my YouTube channel, and I would say roughly about 4,000 unpublished. Okay?
Right? Still editing?
No. These are videos that I put up, and maybe I didn't like them, they didn't work out, and I think a lot of people, especially if I were to encourage you to do videos, a lot of people will spend more time mulling over whether they should do a video or not, instead of just starting to do it. Yeah. And I think that most of my success has come from, at least this part of my world, is not being worried about screwing it up and just doing it, in many cases doing it live. And what I like about doing things live, especially, anybody watches my videos on YouTube?
Yeah.
Alright. So you guys know that I do tutorials, right? So the nice thing about, I was commenting this to someone, the nice thing about doing live tutorials is that people know because it's live, things are gonna go wrong. And if you do QuickBooks Online tutorials, it's just pretty much a gift. Right?
Yes.
So what I like about it is that I created an environment that is going to be forgiving for me, right? So that's why I try to do all the stuff, just do it. Like even ChatGPT tutorials and live webinars, they can go in any direction. And people criticize, you know, the speakers should be more prepared. I'm like, prepared for an answer in ChatGPT? You don't know what ChatGPT is going to say. And I'm also trying to add lib from the comments that people are saying, can't ChatGPT do this and that? And in real time, I'm saying, you know what, I'll ask ChatGPT this and see what happens. So one of the things that works out really well, and it also works out really well with like live podcasts. Like, I think everybody should have a podcast, and I don't mean like a podcast with sponsors, the specific structure. I'm saying everyone should have an outlet where they bounce ideas of another colleague or human being. And if those ideas are topical, where you're not necessarily prepared for it, but you know that from your gut, from your heart, from your experience, you can talk about it. That should happen. Like, this is part of the intellectual growth, individual intellectual growth, is chatting with someone else about your ideas. If you can do it live and publish it and be unafraid of it going wrong, even better. Because what ends up happening is, when you're not thinking about what it looks like in the edit, you just went live and you publish it, that's it. You can go back and listen to it and say, you know what? That was actually not that bad.
And since we can't do that right now because this is live and we need to get to the next question, I'm going to cut you off yet again. So sometimes I know that you guys didn't think that you had what it took to do something, but you found success anyway. And these were some of my favorite stories that I heard from you. Nayo, I know everybody would love to hear about the Taking from Virtual Summit. I mean, you look like the most cool and collected pro ever. What did it feel like?
So, for those of you who don't know what the event is, it was a virtual summit I created to help accountants confidently and securely take their firms to the cloud during the pandemic. And the reason I set it up was because I was hearing about tax professionals risking their lives going into the office because they felt they had to get tax returns done. I heard about people working from home without virus protection. So it was just a lot of hearing about the risk that we were taking as a profession and that we were putting our client data at risk, and it really was stressing me out, so I felt like I had to do something about it. So I put together this event. It took me 60 days to plan it out. I put 20 speakers over the course of 2 days, and everybody did it for free. It was a free event online. And I was just like, I don't know if 5 people are gonna sign up for this, but we're gonna try it anyway. And we had 1,200 registrants that first year. Not only was I intentional about what we were doing, I was intentional about who was speaking, so it was the most diverse conference that's still to this day ever been put together. And we've ran the event for the last 3 or 4 years, and I've been copied. So this year, I'm taking a pause on it because I need to reimagine it, because I don't like that. Now, it's so successful, other people have literally ripped me off. Literally, and I won't name names, but if you come ask me privately, we can have a whole conversation. But, you know, I knew when I put this out, people were like, who is this little girl? I don't know her. And how dare she put out a whole ass conference and didn't ask us for help, and I'm not speaking. Because I got a few of those people who were like, you didn't ask me to speak, and I was like, was I supposed to? So, you know, that was a little risky for me, but we're here today.
You were like sure that speakers were going to say no and only 5 people were going to sign up, and you did it anyway. Was a huge, for me, that was just super inspiring. And Hector, like Nayo, you also jumped into unfamiliar territory and made a difference. I don't have my badge on right now, but I do have a pin on it that says the name of a particular piece of software that you're working on these days.
Yeah.
Yes, in 2 minutes or less, please.
Oh, let me start the timer. You want me to start the timer for you?
Good time.
Okay, timer.
All right.
Tell us about this time. You did not, this is what I was amazed to hear. You did not think you had what it took and you did it anyway. Tell us about Rachel.
So, let me start structuring this part. I have a love-hate relationship with QuickBooks. I wish QuickBooks could be this, but it's this. And in order to get this, it takes like a year to do this, and another year to do this. So I kind of felt like someone had to make the QuickBooks experience better. I don't know how, but and by total serendipity, I met someone that got me, understood, what I was thinking.
Mark Corum, ladies and gentlemen.
Had the technical prowess, and granted, he'll also admit that he didn't know what he was doing. He was experimenting as well. We were all doing this. But I told him what my vision was, and he said, maybe I can do that. Because there's always maybe I can do that. But he always does it, by the way. So I never thought I would be like a software designer, per se. And I don't even know what my role here is. I'm going to call myself a designer because I don't know any code. But I have ideas about how I want QuickBooks to navigate better here and there. And after a year and a half of sleeping very little, kind of reverting back to the old habits, but sleeping very, very little and a whole bunch of trial and error, we have like a decent app company. Like I never even imagined.
So we did it anyway. Dawn, you talked about a little bit earlier that leaning on others is one of the hardest things for you to do, but that learning to do it is helping you find this path toward building resilience and finding path to success. Tell us just in a minute or so.
I only get a minute?
2 minutes, fine. I've seen Randy's looming over there. I still got a little bit left.
Jeez.
I knew this was going to be the hardest part of this panel.
Yeah, no, I realized, over all my whole 7.9 million failures, that I started to figure out that I'm really good at delegating. I don't really want to do anything, to be honest with you. I'm all about delegating. And I really set things up for success in our firm, starting to lean on Keith and do those things, but moving to the relationship pricing changed my life entirely. And so now we're a 3-person firm, 2 people doing the work, plus a little bit of help from Keith. We're doing about $700,000 a year with 3 people.
Nice.
One's a 10-hour to 20-hour admin, and the other 2 of us, and you know what we do? We don't track time. We don't care about time. We are out there and we're making it happen. I will never not get up. I will never not get up.
So, how is it that these struggles don't defeat you? I actually put on this slide the main takeaway from each one of our panelists here. Nayo.
Sit in it. We just, it's a light lesson, learn from it, keep rolling.
Hector, I'm going to remind you what you said. The conversation would be sad if the consequences were negative, but they're not. Despite our challenges, we're happy with what we've done. I just thought that was so beautiful because of
I
you.
said that?
You did. Those are your exact words. Those are your exact words. And
That might have been ChatGPT.
It's beautiful, and I'm crediting you with it. You said it to me on the call. You did. It was not in the survey. This was on our call, and I just loved it. You said you never said because of these issues I didn't do the thing. You did the thing anyway. You showed up.
Yeah.
This was my trick about skipping over you to get over to Dawn.
That's right.
Oh my goodness.
Dawn, yours. Do you remember what yours was?
No.
Growth stems from the struggle.
Yeah.
Growth stems from the struggle. That you said being aware of the challenges is not the same as solving them all. And I found that hugely inspiring. You talked about what these struggles did for you and the freedom that came from accepting. Yep. I love these people so much. And I'm going to throw my 2 cents in there too. My therapy mantra is that the good and the bad coexist. They do not cancel each other out. You can vent to your friends and your colleagues and your family about the things that are bad, and it doesn't mean you're not grateful for all the things that are good in your life. But that gratitude is a beautiful thing. It doesn't eclipse the bad things. They don't cancel each other out. They can coexist. So, where do these superstars struggle in terms of the specifics? The reason we didn't talk about those today is that this whole freaking conference is about these things: growth and scaling, business efficiency and organization, delegation of management, legal and client relations, personal setbacks, mental and physical health. There are so many sessions here that cover exactly the themes that each one of these superheroes talked about when they said what they struggle with.
Can I have 30 seconds?
Nope. Look.
I had a good idea.
Nope, we got the X.
We got the X.
Yeah.
We're in X.
You are not alone. Community is an essential part of these adaptive coping strategies. So together, how do we, all of us, bridge the gap between perception and reality? Transparency, openness, vulnerability, connection, communication, all the things that this conference is about. Humans need to feel safe in order to do those things. But when we recognize that we're part of a community, Hector, Nayo, Dawn, Randy, Liz, Seth, Melissa, so many of you here, it builds trust. And that creates safe spaces that allow us to do this kind of thing. So in one word, how does it feel to realize your peers and mentors struggle with many of the same issues as you? And I'm gonna let Hector have 30 seconds while you guys are doing this.
I was going to say, while Don was talking about our imperfections and our shortcomings and all the things that we're worried that we don't do right, in today's world where AI feels like it's infringing into like our humanity, I think it's really important to use these things to highlight the difference between the computer and the human. And it is the unpredictability of the human behavior. It is the imperfections. It is those things that are not planned or pre-programmed or part of a large language model with a predictable outcome are the things that make us human and make us enjoy the humanity portion of our world. So let AI do its thing and continue to embrace your imperfections, because the other humans that we serve are also imperfect, and I think they're going to seek out the people that are open and vulnerable about the realities that we will live, that we are just imperfect. But in our imperfection, it makes humanity perfect in many ways.
I love that.
Because we should embrace that.
Remember that you're not alone. No one's got it all figured out. I truly believe that we can dispel this perception and present a more balanced message of the reality of our worlds. And it will have an effect on the profession as a whole. We are making that difference. Everybody, take this message out there. Take it onto social, take it to your clients, take it to your team members. We are making a difference. I mean, look what a difference these folks are already making. Let's show each other that exposing our vulnerabilities